Hi everyone, how you going? I'll just give this a minute to chime in and wait and see, because I've got a couple of updates for you, and Indue's at it again. And I'm going to keep doing this every time Indue stuffs a card holder around, okay? We're going to expose everything that comes up now, all the way through the election. So get used to seeing my face in here, because I'm not putting up with this crap anymore, and I'm just going to keep exposing it all. So we have a lady on the no cashless debit card Kalgoorlie Surrounds page that has had several problems in the past. Number one, getting the lawns mowed. You wouldn't think that's a big problem, would you? Now, living in Queensland, we have to do our lawns about every 3 weeks. And there's several different reasons why people don't do them themselves. Like myself, I'm not physically able to do it. Right? So I don't qualify for NDIS or any home help care. I am very fortunate that a friend of mine drives over from Harvey Bay and does mine for me. I live in community housing. If I fail to maintain that little garden out there, I will get evicted. It is the terms of my lease that I maintain the yard, right? And I must keep it contained. I can't just let the grass grow 5 feet high. It's a health risk as well. So can you imagine you've got a high risk pregnancy and you're not supposed to be doing anything? And in the past, this lady has employed this gardener before, and Indue refused to allow her to pay him, because the only way that this particular business, right, it's a small business, right, requires payment through an account, which is probably the easiest way for them to maintain their bookkeeping for tax purposes. It shows that every account is paid through an account, no cash underhand, you know what I mean? But last time round, Indue wouldn't let her pay. Even though she had an invoice, it wasn't good enough. And she had to get her family to pay, right? And then she had to pay her parents back for the account by doing grocery shopping in lieu. Okay? So we're back at the same problem again. This time the lawn needed a lot more work. She's a high-risk pregnancy. She can't do it by herself. So she's just had the person come and do it. The bill is over $200. Okay, that's not bad. I mean, there's people here they need to use a ride-on. It costs a lot of money. You call out Jim's mowing here, my backyard would be over $100. I can't afford that kind of money either. But she needs to transfer some funds. Okay, so she came to the page asking a simple question. Is there a way to speed up the approval process? Because she got the wrong person on the phone at Indue this afternoon. To pay an invoice, or did I just get a really uncooperative person? The lady I spoke to said I needed to email an invoice and allow 2 to 3 weeks. 2 to 3 weeks to get approval, right, to pay this account to this business, because the amount needed is over $200. It's for my gardens. It was a massive job, hence the price, right? Had it done before. It's with a small business owner who does bank transfer via invoice. He only accepts bank transfers, right? That would be so that it's easier for his tax. Okay? But it gets worse, right? Because I said to her, because she's had this problem before, right? Asked her how long it was last time. And she said, well, we did have this problem before. I ended up having my parents pay the invoice, and we paid for their food and shop, because Indue never approved it last time. They are not approving small business invoices to get paid for work that they've done, right? So, and then she was told that she got a call back, and even though that this gardener has an ABN, the woman from Indue argued with her that gardening was a luxury. Gardening was a luxury. Really. It's a requirement under my lease. If you live in public housing Oh my God, I have seen so many times where Anti-Poverty Network have raised a working bee to race in and help somebody clean up their yard because they haven't been able to physically get a lawnmower out on their yard, right? And they're facing eviction from state government public housing because they couldn't mow their lawns. And I've seen Anti-Poverty Network Queensland rally to go and help people, right? Because you can't afford Jim's mowing and all these other expensive people, right? And if you're like me, there's no point in me buying a lawnmower when I can't physically use it. And I don't qualify for NDIS, and there's no supports to come and help me. As I said, I'm fortunate. I've got a friend who comes from Hervey Bay and does it for me, right? And his health isn't the best either. Now, but to put gardening as a luxury, you're risking a person's tenancy. Getting upset because the person is a high-risk pregnancy and ignoring that person's health reasons for employing a gardener in the first place, right? So she's managed to do a deal with a real estate to organise a gardener, and they'll invoice her directly and she can pay the real estate directly. Now, the problem with that could come in with if the real estate does that, right, if she needs to put any extra from her housing limit, they may deny that as well, right, which means she's probably going to have to be scratching to take it out of her 20%, right, or whatever. It seems to me they are getting ridiculous. They're just getting absolutely ridiculous, right? All right. It's just getting crazy, all right? I'm really well and truly over all of what they're putting card holders through, all right? And I'm not going to shut up about this. As this lady says, it's madness, all right? She has a high-risk pregnancy, and this woman says she should, and she's not supposed to be doing any heavy work or anything, right? And this woman was not compassionate or understanding at all. It's a luxury. So there you go. Mowing your lawn is a luxury. Now, let me tell you a little story. When we were campaigning against the cashless debit card in 2017, in June 2017, on one winter morning, it was freezing cold. We got wind of one of the secret meetings that Indue staff were doing, or DSS were doing, with the various different services around the community, and we went and protested outside the neighbourhood centre. Oddly enough, they invited us in. It was freezing cold. Come in, join the meeting. We did. They offered us a cup of tea and everything. And I sat there and I listened to this lady called Michelle, and she was going on, banging on about how well the card was working in Seduna, and how many people were going out there mowing lawns to get extra cash. And I stood up and I said, hang on a minute, all right? You're encouraging people to go out and mow other people's lawns cash in hand to get extra cash, which then jeopardizes them from their Centrelink payments because they're not registered businesses, they're not insured, and they don't have an ABN. At the same time, that threatens the local legitimate small businesses in the region. And you're standing here in Hervey Bay, right, telling me that people will just have to go out and mow lawns to earn extra cash. Isn't this ridiculous? And that's what the DSS were telling people in their secret meetings. Right? Susan says, job seeker, I can't afford a lawn mowing service. I'll have to kill it. Yeah. Nobody could. On most payments, I couldn't afford it. You know, if I had to ring up somebody and it starts at like $55 up to $100 even for a small lawn, I couldn't do that every 3 weeks. In Queensland, we don't need fertiliser. It's rain, sunshine, grow. You can literally watch the grass grow. That was one thing I did discover when I moved to Queensland. It was amazing that you can sit here and just watch it, and tomorrow morning, my grass was cut today and tomorrow it'll be this much higher. Instantly overnight, you know what I mean? This is ridiculous what they're putting people through. Jim's mowing is very, very expensive, yes. But they are approved, I believe. I'm just reading comments here, right? I mean, I'm just gobsmacked. Now, this lady had another problem too. And I want people to be very aware of this. Her husband works full-time. They have been saving for a house. They've been saving a house deposit to buy a house. This is very, very important for people out there, because not everybody on a cashless debit card is jobless. Okay? And there's a lot of people out there that partner works full-time, other partner works part-time. They receive family payments, part payments, and family tax A and B. They may have been working for the last 10 years to save up a house deposit. This family have. However, they went to apply for a mortgage to buy a house. Do you know why they got knocked back? Because she's on an Indue cashless debit card and the bank can't see the portion of the money that is hers that's on the Indue card. They take her income based on her 20% that goes into her bank. So they no longer can buy a house. For as long as she's on the cashless debit card, they cannot access buying a house. No matter how hard that family works and how much more money they save up for a house deposit, right? For as long as she's on a cashless debit card, they cannot access a mortgage or a home loan to buy a house. See, we have people on this card that are on the bones of their ass, broke on youth allowance, job seeker, or nothing, that are trying to rent rooms, that can't pay their rents in rooms. We have people on this card that work 30 hours a week, their husbands work full-time, and they only receive $16 a fortnight on the card, but because they're on the card, they're penalised from taking out the normal loans that working families would have access to, right? They can't get credit. Their credit rating is smashed because one person is on the cashless debit card because they receive a part parenting payment or family tax A and B. It's that broad, okay? The cashless debit card impacts so many people in so many ways. Working families, non-working families, disabled families, carers, aged pensioners, right? This is getting to... So Robin Hannah says, what is a housing limit? Okay, so when somebody sent a cashless debit card, and this is the booklet they're supposed to receive, but I've heard a lot of card holders never actually got one. This is the terms and conditions, okay? All right, so under the terms and conditions, all right, payments must fall within one of the approved payment categories and is subject to the following periodic transfer limits. So, for instance, housing payments is $0 per month approved, right? Other expenses, you can get $200. They say per month in here, but it's only every 28 days that you can access an extra $200. But if you live in the Northern Territory or Cape York, that option is not available to you. They've not allowed that for the people in the Northern Territory or Cape York. And if you're Aboriginal, more than likely you would be declined of getting access to that $200 every 28 days because a lot of people don't know about it or they just say no. Right? I find up here in the Hinkler region, most people don't have problems accessing it. They can get through their portal. But your housing limit is set at 0 on the card. So you must set up a housing limit to get approval to pay your rent. When that happens, you're normally put back behind in your rent before you start. Because the first couple of weeks on the card, your money's tied up in Indue. You can't pay your rent out of your bank account like you normally would. You have to supply your lease. It has to be a signed, fixed, dated lease. You have to supply your rent certificate, right? You have to put through how much your rent is, and then you have to wait for approval. And then it goes through on a 28-day cycle. Take note of this 28-day cycle. We pay our rents every 14 days. But the 28-day cycle ends up running out of sync. And what happens then is somebody will go to pay their rent transfer and the card will decline. Payment failed. And when somebody rings up, they go, you don't have enough in your rental account. And it's like, but my pension just went in this week. Why is my rent money not there? Oh, you'll have to wait a couple of days till the 28-day cycle ticks over. Right? And then the money will be there for you. This is wrong because this forces people to breach their rental contracts. But Indue doesn't care. And I've had card holders challenge them and say no. When she went in and argued with them and said, why can't I pay my rent? I've been paid this week. I need to pay my rent. Oh, but there's only $19 in your rental allowance. Why? Where's the rest of it? Where's my rent money, was her question. Oh, well, it won't tick over until the 28-day cycle. And so you just have to wait a couple more days. And this lady said, my landlord doesn't want to wait a couple more days. I signed a lease contract and I'm due to pay my lease today. With a big fight, she got it paid. With a big fight. But most people don't. And then they automatically reset this rental allowance thing. Excuse me. Every 6 months. But they don't email the card holder to let them know it's going to happen. You're supposed to just be psychic and know, oh, that's not going to happen this week. I need to remember to upload all my documents all over again. You sign a lease for 12 months. Your rental certificate from Centrelink is for 12 months, right? You know, so this is ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. There's been so many people made homeless by this system, right? So many card holders have gone through this. We've had card holders rejected every fortnight and they've uploaded their information. And every time they have to re-upload their information, they have to get a new letter from the owner or the real estate to prove how much their rent is. Now, if anything changes, like they can't pay their water bills with the cashier's debit card, it can't be tacked onto your rental allowance because your water bills always change. Right? So this is just getting ridiculous, right? I'm just trying to catch up with comments here. All right. So somebody... So I hope that helps you, Robin, with the housing limit. Okay, it's very tricky. It's worse with one lady's been told with her mortgage, if the interest rate goes up, she has to apply for permission to get access to more money to be able to pay the extra interest, right? You know, having trouble with reading comments here. It just keeps going over the same little block of comments. I don't know. I can't get the comments to show properly. But this is a ridiculous situation. So gardening's a luxury. But, you know, and if you want to buy a house and you only get a couple bucks on the card because you got stuck on the card because you're in the wrong area, your ability to get a mortgage is gone. The same with the ability to get a loan. A normal loan, that is. Of course, you can go and buy a car through Money3 and get screwed over for 24.95%. Or you can go through and you can get Afterpay and Zip Pay to your heart's content rather than them allow you access to your money, because it's their money now, remember, right? But they'd rather you utilise bad credit, right, in order to get the things that you need and then pay it off on the card and then turn around and tell you that you're no good with managing money. But they put you in a position where it's impossible. All right? So we've got a troll on the page, and I'm trying to see what his comments are. Somebody called William, but I can't see his comment. And there's something about false information. They said it's not government policy now, and it's not being considered. Oh, okay, it's not government. Oh, dear. William Beatty, where have you been for the last 6 years? The cashless debit card started on March the 15th or 14th, 2016 in Seduna. It was supposed to be a 1-year trial. It then started in April the 23rd, I think it was, roughly around that date, of 2016 for the East Kimberley. Right? Again, it was supposed to be a 1-year trial. And then in 2018, pushed through by Pauline Hanson, right, the whole region of the Goldfields was put on the card April 25th, 2018. Then in 2019, on the 29th of January, the cashless debit card came to the Hinkler region. All right, again, a 1-year trial. This is going over 6 years, mate. So where do I get this false information? So you're telling me card holders are lying. I don't have to prove to you anything, mate. I believe the cashless debit card holders over anybody, because I've had them in my house broken. I've seen them homeless. I've advocated for these people for the last 6 years. I've gone to the Senate and spoken 4 times in Parliament. I advocate for these people through politicians that give a damn, right? We fight for these people. We've had card holders that have escaped domestic violence and they've moved to towns where they couldn't even buy food. So stop telling me I'm scaremongering, because I'm not scaremongering. I'm telling you the facts. If you don't like it, that's not my problem, right? You want to call me scaremongering? I'm not going to sugarcoat this for anybody. Least of you, William, no way. I am going to share the stories of the cashless debit card holders and how this card is impacting their lives, their decision making, their health, their housing, their finances, their credit ratings, right? And how it's impacting them at the human level as people. Okay? If you don't like that, that's not my problem. You're on the wrong page. If you support financial abuse of people, because that's what this is, if you support state-sanctioned abuse on fellow Australians, if you support the fact that these people have been effectively sold to Indue for the princely sum of around about $13,000, and Indue gets paid monthly payments to have them on the card as well, if you support all of that, you support removing their privacy rights, their dignity and their freedoms, but you support removing their legal protections in law, right? You support removing their consumer rights and having Section B12 of the Consumer Act, right, being smattered for these people. You support their statutory rights being removed in law. We don't even do that to convicted criminals sitting in prison serving life sentences for murder, but you approve of that for our kids coming out of high school, age pensioners, disabled people, carers, students, parents. Do you support all of that? Because I don't. I don't like the fact that people are required to hand over so much documentation. It is ridiculous, not only on themselves but their children. Then that data is collated by a company called Domino and all bundled up nicely and sold overseas for money. Everybody's making $1 here off the back of forced cashless debit card holders. Everybody except for the people on the card that are being made homeless, that are unaliving themselves, that are going through mental health stresses, that are suffering heart attacks and other problems because of this card. I don't have time for trials anymore, William. After 6 years of being hammered by people who think they know better, right? They haven't lived with the card. I'm not on the card, but I have lived with people on the card long enough, listened to them for long enough, and if you think that it's justifiable to expect a cancer patient to bare their chest to prove that they need prosthetic bras to a private company, or you think it's okay that a minor's privacy should be compromised by demanding the parent send in a photograph of their child in ICU, right, to get access to funds because the card doesn't work at the hospitals, and it doesn't. And tell me why one of my card holders is in hospital right now, recovering from heart surgery, and to get there was a big nightmare, no access to cash. Somebody else has had to go with her. Somebody else has had to pay the hotel room for the pre-surgery stay the day before, and the hotel room because she can't fly back yet. It's heart surgery. She's not ready to fly back yet. And the hotel's being paid for by a friend, right, for her post-op, but she can't pay for it on an Indue card. She can't buy food and she can't buy taxi fare to get her to and from the airport. You think that's okay, William Beattie? I don't. Treating people, Australian citizens, like this is disgusting. It's low. denying Australian citizens with severe medical issues access to medicines, supplies, because everything online is banned. Medishop, Catch, Amazon, eBay, right? If you love the card so much, William Beattie, go on it, right? And you too can be subject to all of the pages of these terms and conditions. And you too can have no legal rights in law to appeal any of it. And when money goes missing, you'll just have to whistle like everybody else. Sorry, I'm no tolerance for tolls. I've been hammered on TikTok. I get hammered on here, right? Today has been quite busy. I've spent time with Justine Elliott's office working on stuff for card holders. Right? Don't tell me this information is false, and don't ever accuse me of scaremongering. I will not sugarcoat any of this stuff, and if you don't like that, sorry. But the public need to know. We have had too many people lose their housing. We've had too many people lose their lives. And we've got too many kids going hungry and missing out and being excluded from simple things like school camps, or being excluded from a barbecue at school after sports day. Too much social exclusion of children from the age of 5 upwards. When you exclude children and they can't go to kindy because you can't pay the child care fees, it impacts their education. When you exclude children in primary school, right, it makes them feel like, are we poor, Mum? And it does their heads in psychologically. You end up with children in counselling because they get bullied because their parents are seen with the card, but they can't do the things that other kids can do. They can't access a second-hand computer quickly. They can't access second-hand school uniforms. They can't go on that school camp, right? They can't just pay for that paper or that printing. They can't, right? Stop. Just stop. This is hurting our kids, it's hurting the parents, and it's hurting people across the board. People are going bankrupt, and I'm not going to stop shutting up. I'm not going to shut up for people like you, William Beattie. Simple as that, okay? If you don't like it, bye, get off the page. If you don't support stopping this card, you want this for your grandchildren, I'm not going to say anything about your character. But at least I know I've got the guts to stand up for your grandchildren. Right? Bye. Get off my page. Well, as I said, I'm not going to tolerate trolls, LNP rubbish, One Nation people coming here, right? Screaming freedoms for everybody else except for people who are low-paid workers, casual workers, right? And parents and people with disabilities, age pensioners, carers. Sorry, I've got no patience, right? People need to read this. And they can read it online. Go to Indue. Look up Indue on Google. You can find it and you can read it. And this one is an older one, actually. This is the Hinkler one that was given to people in Hinkler in 2019. This one only has 85 pages. The new one has 94 pages of terms and conditions, right? I'm sorry, but effectively selling Australians to a private company for profit is wrong. Unless, William Beattie, are you in a vested interest? I'll leave that with you. All right, as I said, I don't have time for trolls. All right, this has the ability to cripple our economy worse than what is going on, because all the money is siphoned away. See, people on the cashless debit card can only spend at approved businesses. Isn't that funny? The approved businesses seem to all be tied up with Wesfarmers, Woolworths, Coles, Aldi. The approved businesses are like Harvey Norman. Okay? These are all LNP approved businesses, big bucks. But you tell me why somebody can go to a normal little deli in a regional town and they can't buy milk, nappies, formula, food, because the card declines from a small mum and dad business. Okay, but they can go to Coles because that's Wesfarmers. right? Sucking the money out of local small economies instead of not letting it circulate in the community. 80% of somebody's income gets funneled out to multinationals that we already know don't pay proper taxes, and they also play the game of wage theft, and then they make agreements not to pay it all back, only a portion when they get caught. Both Coles and Woolies have done that, right? And many of their casual staff are on the card. Right, so, sorry. Nikki B, he can say I'm scaremongering. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for anybody because it's too important. It is too important that this country hears what this card is really about. And if people don't like me telling the truth, he thinks he can come here and troll me after 6 years of doing this, not on. No. Right? You know, where do you get this false information? Are you calling 15,000 card holders liars, are you, mate? Are you? I'm challenging you, William. You calling 15,000 people liars. Wow. Wow. On a lighter note, one of our card holders is now being represented by an ALP politician and will be helped through a wellbeing exemption. Okay. And another one will be soon, because that's what we do. We advocate for card holders, and then we put them in touch with the relevant federal members that will help them, right? And we stand by the people. I'm on the phone all the time. I am somebody that people vent to, and I'm here. Okay, that's what I do. I'm an advocate for people on the cashless debit card. I relay what stories I can for people. I try to protect their privacy as much as possible so that trolls like lovely William Beattie can't find out who they are and troll them and abuse them and call them liars, which is what he's doing here. All right? All right? Geez, my blood pressure's up. Furious right now because I'm sick of people who don't care about others. You know? It's not fair what's going on to Australians who don't deserve this. Right? It's disgusting what's going on. And it needs to be stopped. Privatising social security, turning social security recipients into commodities for profit. Right? Commencing social economic apartheid, segregation, and if you control people's money, you control their ability to make decisions, you control their freedom. So all the people out there that might be considering voting for the freedom, you know, Pauline Hanson, Malcolm Roberts, Craig Kelly, Clive Palmer, Ricardo Bossi, right, and all these others, freedom fighters, just be aware that they already voted your freedoms away on the 9th of December 2020 when they extended this to the Northern Territory. Aged pensioners went on it in March 2021 in Cape York, right? You know, I have no time for trolls on this page. If you don't support us, get off the page. Simple as that. If you're not going to vote Labor to stop this card, or you're not even going to support Greens to stop this card, go away, right? You know, even Australian progressives don't support this card. They will fight, and they will fight with Labor to stop it as well. Yeah. Lorraine Josie Wild seems to me, me alone. Now, hang on. I miss the old days where we helped our mates, and our mates were everyone you saw on the street. Yep. Now there's so many people willing to kick everybody down, and it's really hurtful. You know, it just drives me nuts to see that other Aussies will lay the boot into other Aussies, and they don't care what happens to their kids. They don't care if they're living in a tent, right? And I've got card holders living in tents too, okay? They're the homeless. Sleeping in cars, living in tents. And I can't perform miracles. I can't get them housing. Right, there is none to have. and housing is priced out of the normal realms of anybody on a social security payment. And when you live in a cashless debit card area, having an Indue card is a barrier to getting housing. All right, because landlords have had a gut full of late rents or rents not being able to be paid at all. Now they won't touch people on a cashless debit card. So, whoops. Yeah, so, try and have a rest tonight. Oh yes, Sterling Griff, we can't forget him. The #1 backstabber of the century. Centre Alliance promised everybody for 2 years that they wouldn't vote for the card, right, if they didn't have the independent evaluation. Senator Ann Ruston refused to present the evaluation prior to the vote, yet Centre Alliance and Sterling Griff did a backward deal the day before the vote with the LNP, and yeah, they passed it through and gave LNP the we actually had the numbers this time. Jackie Namby turned against the card. Rex Patrick voted against the card. All of ALP have stepped up and said they're going to stop it, and they fought against it. The videos are in our video archive here. You can see all of the senators' fights. You can see the whole debate. Scroll back down to the 9th of December 2020 and you can watch the whole 2.5 hours of that debate and the dirty deal that was done. And then Jackie Lambie came out and turned around and told the minister, why don't you be honest with the Australian public? You just did that deal 24 hours ago with Centre Alliance. All right? Yeah, so we don't forgive Sterling Griff because he didn't, not only did he not have the guts to actually come into the Senate and vote with the LNP, he ran away. He left the building rather than actually stand by his vote. He abstained and left the building, which gave his vote to the LNP. Okay? And Rebecca Sharkey refused to back Linda Burney's amendment in the House of Reps, which would have stopped the card previously. So there you go. LNP, One Nation, Craig Kelly. Don't forget Craig Kelly, because he's no longer part of the LNP. He's UAP. And as a representative of the UAP, or an independent, or whatever he was at the time, he voted for the cashless debit card too. Sorry. Yeah, I'm a pretty grumpy person at the moment, because I've been trolled all day and I just don't have any more patience for them. And if they don't like what I've got to say and they want it all pretty and softly, no. Too many lives are at risk. I've had a gutful. Too many people are being impacted. Too many people are being hurt, right, for profits. For people to get rich. For people to sit in judgment. For people being paid $126,000 every 6 months to sit there and dictate to somebody on a cashless debit card, oh, what was that $50 for? What was this for? What was that for? No, you can't do that. No, you can't do this. Meanwhile, they're getting paid $126,000 every 6 months for their contracts. And the person sitting there might be on youth allowance on $9,000 a year. Right? Starving, struggling to bloody well eat. I've got no more time for trolls. And thank you, Annie. And thank you for all the people that have supported me all the way along. It's just, yeah. So, anyway, we are getting help for the people that I've spoken to about this week. And I'm not going to shut up. This page is being watched by politicians. They are watching my lives. They are aware of what's going on. All right? We want the media to step up and not softly and back up ALP, the Liberal National Party's rhetoric. Right? This is long gone beyond drugs, alcohol and gambling. That smoke screen has gone out. It is not a financial literacy tool. Right? It is a control tool. It is for profiteering. And as Ann Ruston said in Senate estimates or the inquiries, when asked about Indue and their profits, the government isn't interested in the profits that Indue make. Right? Indue's not accountable to us, the Senate, or anybody else. So, as for the trolls, bye-bye. Ta-ta. Toodles. The rest of us will carry on fighting for the people on the cashless debit card. And when Labor get in, Labor will scrap the card and people will get their real freedoms back. They'll get their human rights reinstated. They'll get their legal protections under law reinstated under the Social Security and Commonwealth Act 1991 and 1999 that they've had removed. They'll get their consumer rights back under Section B12 under ASIC and consumer laws, and they'll get their statutory rights and their personal privacy rights back in case. Alright. Okay, best case scenario, if Labor wins the election, I wonder if people will get their money that Indue have in their accounts. No, they'll have to get it back. So when somebody does come off the card, Indue have to transfer funds straight back to those people's accounts. One grizzle I've got from a cardholder at the moment is the fact that Services Australia are giving Indue, the private company, people's personal bank account details without their consent. That's one thing that I've had a cardholder get really upset about recently, is the fact that Services Australia gave Indue her bank account details without her consent or without even telling her they'd done it. Right? Remember, until Indue came along, every cardholder didn't know what Indue was. So they would never have rang up and said, Indue, I want to go on your card. They didn't know what it was until it arrived in the letterbox and found out that 80% of their income had already been transferred without their consent, and the only way to access it was to activate their card under duress. So it's the same rules apply, Mark Thompson. They would get their money returned to them into their normal bank account. Indue terms and conditions state that this can take up to 21 days. It is normally done within about 24 hours. When they take somebody off the card, the first thing a person knows that they've even been approved is all of a sudden their money's back in their account pretty quick. Okay? The gripe that we have is for the 300 or so people that we've managed to assist get off the card in the last 6 years, is that those accounts are being kept open and the government is paying Indue to have those accounts open. Alright? Indue's still profiting off of what we call... They've even gone as low as we have a parent whose son is deceased and she's still receiving statements for his Indue card account. Okay? And that parent is distressed about that happening every 3 months, getting, even though the estate has been settled, they're still keeping the account open. This is big issues, and I've got 2 people in my inboxes at the moment that I need to attend to, so I'm going to leave it there at the moment. Okay, so I don't know what you mean about tyrannical laws. We don't. I'll tell you right now, the anti-vax movement, anti-mandate doesn't come into this. I deal with legal restrictions that have been imposed on people. I deal with the fact that their rights have been removed in law through Parliament, voted through House of Reps, voted through the Senate, assented by the Governor General, and in law. That's what I deal with, okay? We don't deal with mandates or anything on this page. I'm not getting into it because that's a totally different thing, and that is temporary emergency health orders, nothing to do with legislated laws that have been passed and imposed on Australian citizens, or should I say ex-citizens, because people on the cashless debit card have been excluded from the rule of law and non-discrimination. Right? I'm over it. How can gardening be a luxury when it's a bloody... It's part of your lease that you must maintain the gardens. Not everybody can have gardening included in their rent. Anyway, I'll say goodnight and I'll keep busting people's chops when they come and troll us. And all I can do is keep sharing the information, people. Keep sharing it. Keep sharing it, sharing it, and sharing it. Right? And like everything else, you have to keep saying it over and over and over. And I'll keep voicing the card holders. Where possible, card holders will also voice for themselves. But please be aware it takes an awful lot of guts, and they get threatened for doing it. Even though those threats are empty, can't be actioned on, it still frightens people. That's why I'm here. Alright? If you're a cashless debit card holder and you've got a story, you're worried about any trolls or any playback from it, send me your stories. I'm happy to be the voice, and I'll protect your privacy. That's not a problem. But I can connect you with the right senators and MPs who can help you and still maintain your privacy and take your voice to Parliament. Alright? Alright, guys. Good night. See ya.